Right, talking investment now. Terry Smith is the founder of Fundsmith, UK-based fund manager with £37 billion under management. It's just launched here in the UAE and he's with us in the studio. Terry, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Right, 14 years ago you launched Fundsmith, 2010, and it's grown significantly since then. Why now launching here in the UAE? Just tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, look, we've already got a significant client base here in the UAE. We've got over $1 billion from people. Although we're the biggest fund in the UK, we've got quite a wide spread of clients, right around to Japan and in the world, including the UAE. And the regulations changed in the UAE recently, which you may be aware of, which is to say that foreign funds can't be sold here any longer. And so we've set up a feeder fund with a local firm, Additum, who are running that for us, so that local investors will be able to continue to invest in Fundsmith.
Okay.
So we're here basically for the launch of that feeder fund.
So let's talk about the Fundsmith story. As I say, only 14 years old, and to rise to be the biggest retail fund, or the biggest fund by many measures in the United Kingdom, £37 billion under management, is some going in little more than a decade. How did you do that?
Did it by a variety of reasons. First of all, just committing my own money to it, and my colleagues, my partners' money to it. So making a commitment to it. Secondly, by running it, I think, in a way that does deliver value for investors. Really does. That's what our focus is. The day that we don't think we can do that, I would just give up. Being clear in communication to people. People, I sit in a lot of meetings. Unfortunately, I could end that sentence there. Sit in a lot of meetings, but I sit in a lot of meetings where people say it's all about communication, and it's not all about communication. Communication is incredibly important, but you need something to communicate first. Right? I don't know if you've seen the movie Sully about Sullenberger, The Miracle on the Hudson. Mm-hmm. And I was a keen amateur pilot in the past. And one of the things I was taught is that in an emergency, the important mantra is aviate, navigate, communicate, in that order. When the engines both blow out on your Airbus, it's no good going Mayday, 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 I'm in trouble. Fly the plane first, right? It's the same with this. Have a product or service that really delivers something valuable to investors, then communicate it.
Your mantra is famously simple, which is why journalists like me love the Britain's Warren Buffett quote.
Warren who?
Exactly. And it's not just because you're both very successful billionaire investors. It's because of the essential simplicity to your approach. And the mantra oft quoted is, buy good companies, don't overpay, and then do nothing.
Yeah.
Explain that to us.
Sure. Before I begin to explain it, let me just say a qualification on it. It's simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. Actually, doing simple things is often the most difficult in life. We try to buy good companies, and I've got a long definition, a stringent definition of what's a good company, and the good news is you haven't got time enough for it.
But I bought your book last night, so I can read it this weekend.
You can read it at your leisure. If you've got insomnia, it'll be very helpful. And so, look, we buy good companies, and I'd start by saying this, why would you do anything different to that? So what, you deliberately go out and buy bad businesses? Wow, what an interesting concept. So we're looking for companies which are, people say, oh, you're trying to pick winners. No, I'm not trying to pick the winner. I'm trying to bet on the winner after the race has occurred, when somebody's won. We don't need to worry about whether Coca-Cola and PepsiCo dominate the world drinks market, do we? So I'm trying to buy a good business that's been around for a long time through many business cycles, that makes a high return on the capital that's employed. That's our capital as investors. That's got great profit margins, that generates cash. No good having profits without cash. You need cash, right? They're not the same thing. Profits and cash aren't the same thing. That's got a pathway to growth that over the foreseeable future, whatever the hell that means, but as long ahead as I can imagine, it will continue to grow. There's something that it sells that we're going to want more and more and more of ad infinitum, basically, that's run by capable and honest people who tell me the truth about what's going on, including the bad bits, because there's always going to be bad bits. And that's the most important thing we do. You could almost stop there. If you own good companies, you'll be okay. But we try to buy them when they're at least reasonably valued. We do believe in the great Buffett adage, it's better to own a great company at a fair price than a fair company at a great price. He's absolutely right. And then having assembled this small group of very good companies, we only think that we can identify about 80 companies in the world that are investable. There's not many that go through the eye of the needle in terms of this. We do nothing because Why would you change anything at that point? It costs money to change things. And by and large, when I change things, I don't always get it right. The grass isn't always greener on the other side when I change things. Quite often it's not as green. So that's what we do. We try and identify those good companies. And I spent most of what I just said in reply talking about the good companies because it is the most important thing.
Well, if we look at some of the companies in your relatively limited portfolio, for a portfolio of that size, you do have Novo Nordisk, which makes the weight loss drugs. You do not have NVIDIA.
No.
Can you explain those two decisions to me?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the simplest way might be because I was wrong. I think there's a reasonable possibility. Novo, we've owned Novo for about 5 years. So we owned it before the words weight loss were ever used in connection with Novo Nordisk. It was then basically a company that made insulin and other drugs to control diabetes. It's the world leader in the control of what's the biggest and fastest growing disease in the world, diabetes. And when we met them, we were really struck that they were different to other drug companies in terms of the drug discovery process. They didn't have large sort of campuses full of PhDs labouring away to take an existing drug that they had on patent to try and find a way to do something with the formulation to get the patent extended. They went for radical changes in terms of the new drugs that they discovered. And we thought that was going to produce spectacular results. And it has. It's produced the weight loss drug Wegovy, which is also, of course, Ozempic for the treatment of diabetes. And so far it's labelled by health authorities in a number of countries for diabetes, which is what it's there for, and also for weight loss. But I think it will go on to be labelled for improving your kidney function, or at least stopping its deterioration, and your liver. And for the eradication or remission of autoimmune conditions, so lupus, arthritis, etc. Probably halting the development and sending into remission something like a dozen cancers, halting the progress of Alzheimer's, and as a remedy for alcoholism.
We've only got a short while left, Terry. Your quick thesis on NVIDIA, which you don't own.
I might be wrong. Look, the problem for us in owning NVIDIA is we don't think it's very predictable. I mean, it's obviously on a tear at the moment from selling these GPUs for artificial intelligence. But it's had two big changes of its business model, from chips that were used for gaming and chips that were used for Bitcoin into these GPUs now. And it's handled that brilliantly. It's pirouetted through all those brilliantly. But will it be able to do it in future? I don't know. Bear in mind, the last two times it did it, the shares went down 80%. It's not got the predictable characteristics we seek. The other thing to say about it, I know you say a short time, is we don't like things which are sold, which are very high value and are sold as part of the capital cycle. You know, somebody who makes a great big machine that they sell to another company to make stuff. Because when there's a downturn, that business just goes to zero sometimes, right? It's not like selling toothpaste. And my trick question for all of you who think you might know something about NVIDIA, all right? So get ready, because I'm about to question you now, okay? Is they sell chips, right? Could you tell me physically what one of these new NVIDIA GPU chips looks like?
Not a clue.
No, come on. I want you to tell me. You know what microchips look like. Tell me what this looks like. I'm not going to let you off the hook.
It's like a Kit Kat, isn't it? It's got lots and lots of wafers on top
How
of each other.
How big is it?
Fair point, don't know.
It weighs, on average, 30 kilos.
Right.
It's the size of a small suitcase and is water-cooled and costs $2 to $3 million. This is a big capital investment item, right? And that's not the sort of thing we invest in, basically. It's a long remove from buying toothpaste, right? Because people say to us, oh, you invest in a lot of things that are sold to consumers. Correct. Isn't it dangerous to be close to the consumer when there's an economic downturn? To which my answer is, yeah, it's very dangerous. There's only one thing more dangerous than being close to the consumer in a downturn, not being close to the consumer. Because when the consumer stops buying things as much and the consumer company making cosmetics or toothpaste, whatever, has a 5 to 10% downturn, guess what happens to the suppliers of capital equipment that goes into their factories to make this stuff? Theirs goes to zero. They just stop ordering.
Terry, it's been great fun talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Someone's asking, what's the name of the book? I bought it last night on Amazon.
It's Accounting for Growth.
Investing for Growth. Investing for Growth is the new one. Accounting for Growth
is my first book. Investing for Growth.
And that's a story for another day.
Yep.
Appreciate your time this morning. Terry Smith, founder of Fundsmith, now teamed up with Additum here in the UAE. Thank you.